sang this song to me. There was a message in its melody, sweetest lyrics that I ever heard. There's a message in the songs of birds. Tomorrow is another day. Living is the only way. Tomorrow's gonna ever come. Listen to the words of the song. Everything gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be.
Greetings and welcome to A Sip of Inspiration. I'm Stephanie Wilson-Coleman and I'm your host for the day, and I've got a wonderful, wonderful guest joining us. I do have to do some housekeeping. If you're listening to us now, you're listening to us live on StreamYard, and I want to thank you for that. And you can also listen to us on Facebook, on YouTube, and Twitch. And I'm thankful for wherever you are listening. Also, after this, you'll be able to find this very show on YouTube so you can look at it again, because I'm sure we're going to have some really exciting information and nuggets for everyone, and you're going to want to hear those again. It's also on my website, champagneconnection.com. And if you go to my website, you'll be able to see all kinds of tools that can help you have the life that you actually dream about. So with that being said, I want to welcome Sharon Rolph. I hope I got that right. Sometimes I don't do too good with names. So I don't pretend to be perfect. Okay. So Sharon, before we start, I do have to introduce my sponsor, so we can't leave him out. So when you need a supply company to rise to your needs, call Resource Industrial Supply Equipment. They have been sponsoring us for several years, and I actually appreciate them and want to thank them every time. So let's get started here. This is going to be about life after retirement. I have a lot of questions because it's not over till it's over, but a lot of times we all think that it's over when we retire or when we stop working or we get a certain age. But let me tell you a little bit about this young lady. For the most of her life, she has felt invisible. And when she retired, she wondered how would she know if she was going to be productive? And I know some of you who are listening had the same questions. So today she is a motivating influencer at 76 years old. She's an author, a podcast guest, and queen of courage on Instagram. Her days now feel right since she is doing this work. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
So I just want to know, how did you come upon this? How do you decide that this was something that needed to be fixed? Because most of us do believe that there's nothing else after retirement. And a lot of us are left feeling empty, I'm sure, when they retire. So how did you get started, Miss Queen of Courage?
Wow, that is a great story. Actually, it started kind of by an email coming into my basket. I was still working at Boeing here in Everett, Washington. And well, I guess I was actually in Tukwila anyway. It said that Boeing was partnering with our local community college in a coaching program. And at first I just ignored it because, I was retiring. And then it took me about a week or 10 days before I realized that, what I've been doing at Boeing was empowering people, taking problem solving down to the lowest level. And I thought, well, I could still be empowering people, even though I'm not getting paid at Boeing to do it. And I had a wise director back in the 80s that said, before you finish a big project, and at that time we were putting on single conventions in our church in our region for singles. And we'd been running 4 or 5 years by that time. And he said, well, always have something else to go to. I got the feeling he had learned a hard lesson by getting over one of these conventions. And then, what do I do now?
Yes.
Kind of like after having a baby, you have a postpartum.
Yes.
And so that was kind of ringing in the back of my head a little bit, because I thought, well, after you leave your job, that's a pretty big transition. And so I took another look at that email and said, maybe this might be a good next step for my career. And so I actually started, well, I tried my hardest to get Boeing to pay for it. We're not going to be able to benefit from this class and us spending money. So I dished out $10,000 for this program. And I started the week before I said goodbye at Boeing. And what I learned that first weekend in class was how to write my essence statement. I've since renamed it to my spark statement, because that's kind of what it felt like. And people say they see a spark in me. So here's at the end of the weekend, that first weekend, they had us standing in a circle and reading our statement to each other. There was a class about 15, 18 people. And I noticed as it was coming closer and closer to being my turn to share, people were kind of sniffling a little bit. And I thought, what is that about? And when it came to be my turn, nobody had ever asked me to define my soul before, is what it felt like.
Oh.
And I choked up a little bit too. I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires. That's what I shared that day. And it has become so important to me, Stephanie, that all this free time and retirement is untapped potential. There's all this time, and potential is important to me. Ever since I was a teenager, it's like, what's my potential? How do I find it? So to me, it's highway robbery to be having all this generous time on your hand and feeling like it's a burden. Let's put it to use. So I'm just really hot about helping people in retirement finding a new purpose. Oftentimes your jobs have been somewhat of a purpose, but it's all the more important in retirement because it's the glue that keeps life together.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that people have when they are facing that retirement transition, and then they realize they had all these things that they were going to do and they did them in 3 months and now they don't have anything else to do? Right?
Yeah. I created a 6 tips to not get you off track in retirement. And one of them is being too busy. One's being not busy enough. All your grandkids and family are inviting you to their birthday parties and graduations and all that stuff. But without our business card anymore, this tells us who we are. It gives us a structure to our day. It tells us what our job title is. What we're trying to accomplish is in our jobs. It's all kind of carried on our cards. Well, I've made myself a new card, and I call it "Discover Your Spark, Your Inner Spark." Discover and ignite your inner spark. Mm-hmm. Well. See, if you're not busy enough, then you get bored and you got all this time on your hand. And some people kind of like, oh, I'm so responsible for doing something with this time. And I think it's very true. So let me help you. What's a couple of, you're now responsible for your social health. All those people you worked for or with, or went to college with, that's part of your invisible assets, is what I call them now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I create these little art blocks, and here's one of them that kind of goes along with this title. Have you forgotten who you are? It's a line from the Lion King. You know, they were saying this to the next generation of the king of the jungle, I guess. But to me, all those people you knew at work, the clients you worked with or for, the college colleagues from, yeah,
Right.
and all the people you've met on your vacations and conferences, that's still part of you. And they haven't gone away just because you're not working anymore. So I actually have a presentation I've done a few times called "What's Missing Besides Your Paycheck." Oh, yeah.
So how do you now take those connections that you had? Because you're right, we were connect. Everyone's connected to a lot of people. We know we've got friends, we've got people we worked with, we got people we just know. So how do you get back to that when you're no longer in the work environment?
Well, I love to help people remember to be curious like a 3-year-old. You know, if a 3-year-old wants to get to your pots and pans so they can make some noise, or get that door open like mom opens the door, they keep working at it and trying to figure out how to make it work. And that's the kind of persistent curiosity, ingenuity we can use. Another one of my art blocks is worry is a misuse of imagination. And to me, our brain creates ingenuity, and you can do this. You know, it takes a little bit of time. I know one of the ladies that her book was 55 Underemployed and Faking It. Elizabeth White. I don't know if you've heard of her, but I think she's a Harvard graduate, and she was working for somebody, big company. I don't know that she ever named the company, but it could have been Deloitte Touche. It could have been Arthur Andersen. I don't know, but she was without work for like a couple of years after this high-powered job, and eventually, you know, she had to kind of admit that she needed help amongst her friends that were maybe also going through having lost a great job. And she started resilience benches in the Boston area so people could sit and not necessarily commiserate, maybe for 5 minutes, but, you know, maybe talking about here's the tips to how to get what you need, you know, like your water bill paid, or maybe giving birthday presents by secondhand shops, you know. Mm-hmm. I love going to secondhand shops because I kind of like the hunt of seeing what I could find. In fact, one of my best professional picture that I had taken, it's in a white jacket with some purple and maroon kind of flowers on it. Mm-hmm. I got that from a secondhand store. And as I tried it on, a man was walking towards me in the store, and he says, "That looks like it was made for you." And it fits so perfectly. And for it to be now I get lots of compliments on that picture. Part of it is I had a professional makeup person do my makeup, and she helped it match with the purple and the mauve tones in my jacket. And I stood in a garage when the picture was taken. And the photographer was so good. Anyway, friends can help you, and it's often hard to ask for help. So Elizabeth White was, instead of being depressed about it, she might have had the motto that I do is I'm the one that decides what stops me or who stops me. I keep pushing ahead. So um, the the alarm clock gave you structure to your day. It told you when you had to be up and when you need to be out of the house and who's going to or what's going to do that for you now. You have to have a new purpose and a new meaning to life. And like I say, purpose is a secret ingredient to doing well in retirement.
So sometimes people will say you can volunteer or do you have a hobby? So how does that help you?
Oh man, that is huge. In fact, I wrote a course last May on make a marvelous transition into volunteering because volunteering. Well, I did a podcast for about 50 podcasts before the pandemic, and one of the guests I had come on had been a 6-year AARP president for Washington State. And he had a nice layout of all these things that happen, 9 tips about what happens when you retire and when you volunteer. And I think now that he's not the president anymore, he's got like 4 things that he volunteers for on a regular basis, let's put it that way. And it helps keep you social.
Okay.
It may very well keep you learning, and lifelong learning is another huge key. You might be solving somebody's problem, and he gave a good tip on that. Somebody wasn't eating in a senior living place. It never ate in the lunchroom, and she felt bad about not having any teeth. As an advocate, he was able to go to some agency and get her the funds and means to have teeth so she could eat in the lunchroom. How amazing is that when you're volunteering, you know? I volunteer, I think it's been about 2.5 years now, delivering food to the people who don't have a car and can't get to the food bank. So there's an older couple. I don't even know if they have a car. I haven't seen their car. There's another lady that has, I think maybe is a caregiver to a child. I'm not sure at all, but I kind of tried to make up stories as to why they would be in need of somebody bringing food to them. And, I used to have a tablet that said on it, all of us need help at some point in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely true. I come to realize that we all need a little help. So that gives you some ideas why volunteering is powerful. The reason I wrote my little course was at 14. I don't know what exactly had happened, but I was considering helping somebody. And my mom said, when you help somebody else, they get blessed, but you get blessed too. Oh, volunteering helps me feel good. What a bonus is that, So if you want to feel good, volunteer.
Do you incorporate mindfulness techniques or spiritual practices in your coaching process?
Well, not at the moment. I kind of do a little bit in my Queen of Courage because I have a list. I'm not sure I can reach it at the moment, but of all the words that have kind of spiritual elements to it,
Mm-hmm.
like hope, like generosity, like curiosity. One of my big words is possibility. When you have gone to the end of your rope, there's possibilities out there if you open up think outside the box.
Right.
And there's a lady I'd like to have dinner with she wrote the book, The Art of Possibility. And for some reason, I put off reading it for a while, and I don't know what I was scared of. But when I did I got the audio version of it, and I was so glad because her husband has been the Boston Philharmonic conductor for like
Yes,
20 or 25 years.
right. I have the books. Yes.
And he included some sound bites of him conducting with a lot of teenagers, I guess. And oh, it sounded so good. I was so excited to have the audio version because it was just beauty touches my spirit in a really significant way, and that was a treat for sure.
Yes, it is a great book. It is a fantastic book. So, when you work with a client, so how do you help them find their purpose and help them to transform their retirement experience?
Well, that is quite my secret sauce here, Stephanie.
Okay.
And in fact, I have this is the tip sheet I thought it was, but I have been working with a branding guy, and in fact, tonight's my graduation night. Oh, here it is.
Oh, congratulations.
So we start out with my program, Discover Your Spark, Rekindle Your Joy. We start out about where are we today? You know, I'm finding that a lot of people, especially kind of like when people grieve, there's usually about a 3-year window when you at the end of 3 years, you're kind of ready for the next,
For the next thing or the next experience, right?
Yeah, you're getting past that. So that might also apply in this case to retirement. But, if you're somebody that's been going hard all your life, you might be ready to do that transition the next Monday, So, where are you now? And where would I want to be, 3 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like something that would draw me. I'm been chewing a lot lately, Stephanie, on what brings me joy. I don't think I've done a really good job of that. And there's a couple of reasons why, but you put a stake in the ground so you know how much you've moved once you're at the end of the program. So we start with what matters. And we talk about what's working. And in what's working has a lot to do with how do you feel about yourself? I've always been kind of proud of having nice hair. In retirement, it changes. It's thin and yeah, it's anyway, whatever. Everybody has to go through that, right?
Right.
But what do you like about yourself? Do you like your personality? Do you like how you're good with people or good with children or whatever? Then we list 20 things you love to do. That's so tough. 20 things you love to do.
That is tough. I need to write that down for myself. That's tough.
Yeah. So what's not working might be things that are habits that might be getting in your way.
Okay.
Like not going to bed until 2:00 in the morning. I can't imagine. But so as you start thinking about what's not working, you might, what would I rather have instead? That's always a good question.
Okay.
So then in the middle of all that, we talk about what's possible. That helps us open our mind, our spirit, our dream a little bit, like, oh, yeah, what's possible? I remember sitting by a campfire and having this little voice, nudge me for something that would be a delight, but I was scared stiff, Maybe it's time to refresh that little voice because I think they're so powerful to us. And now we might have the courage to try it out. One of my blocks I have here is I'll know the next step once I take the first step. You don't have to know how to do the whole thing. You just need to know the next step because you could get help. There's possibility that somebody would want to help you. Okay, and then as you think about possibilities, it awakens your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
and you start being open to something new. And the most important step, I think, and you kind of touched on it, was our values. I think we don't reflect often enough on our values, but that's the one thing that gives you meaning and fulfillment in life. I don't know that people say it quite like that, but it helps point us in the direction um, that we should be using for aligning our actions and decisions with our values. I'll never forget one of my instructors. I wrote a paper. It was probably an English paper, so it didn't matter what topic I used, but I did the paper on values. And this guy had been teaching for 25, 30 years and had never had anybody write a paper on values. Well, that's kind of evidence of why it's important to me, but it changes everything. And so Brene Brown has a list of values, and I suppose if you Google, you might some list of values are 10 or 15, but the one I have is 50 possibilities, and I still added new ones. Wisdom was missing.
That's right. Wisdom cannot be missing. That's right.
And then the beauty of what we do with this finding a new purpose or discovering your spark is that we wrap it in a metaphor. I like to think of it as how the Bible uses parables. You know, it was like a man with a field or with employees or something. So we wrap this new nugget of all these things we like about ourselves and what matters to us into a metaphor. And my metaphor is about I am precious jewel of wisdom. I had something happen in Dallas, Texas, where I was at a booth, a jewelry booth at a fair there one year, and I tried on these rings. They made something in my gut move. What just happened? I tried them on again. They were called stackables, and so I took them off and put them back on, and it moved again. What is going on? I was bewildered. And yet, a couple months later, I was reading a book about, using something tangible to describe yourself as if you were that item. And so I described how I contributed to my team at work, and the value and the sparkle and the quality and all that as defining to that group. So when it came to time to need a symbol of my who I was, I decided to use those rings again, and start my essence statement with I am precious jewel of wisdom, because my little sayings that I collected over the years are seeds of wisdom.
So, how do you help people incorporate the spiritual practices, the mindfulness, and envision their ideal retirement in your classes? Because I know we're never taught to envision our ideal retirement, except to make sure you have enough money so just in case you live forever. That's the only thing that you're told. Have enough money just in case you live forever. So how do you think we should get ready for retirement? Because the day comes, and as much as we think we want to work for someone else forever, you reach a point when you do want to do something different, something more fulfilling, something just for you.
Well, yeah, because our jobs are often, we have to have a great brain, or we have to have strong muscles, And in retirement, what you need is to live from your heart. Nobody really tells us that. So this thing of, that little voice in your head that's come to you at times, it's now to pay some attention to that. And you get to do what you love to do. There's some websites, I don't have them on the tip of my fingers, but I know I do put resources in the back of my book. My book is called Fresh Courage in Retirement, Finding Purpose, Essence, and Fulfillment. And I love to sew. I love, well, sewing, and I love color, and I love words of wisdom. And I have these little blocks scattered throughout my book because I know that when you see beauty, it processes in your mind and spirit in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's explained that to me yet, but I'm convinced it's true. So living from your heart is a get out of jail free. and AARP I know has a site where I think it was called, it may have changed names a little bit, Life Reimagined, and it's a database where you can match what you would like to do with what people need to be done. And nowadays there's lots of jobs that don't need to be in a specific spot. You can do a lot of help for nonprofits or foundations online, you know. So but I do have other resources listed in the back of my book for there's books and websites and movies even that can be a resource for you. I know I was quite impressed with the movie The Intern by I think Robert De Niro was in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He was learning from the young people, and the young people were learning from him. And what a marvelous marriage, I guess, of people that can help each other and learn from each other. So let's see, what would be another? And I strongly encourage people to just there is a stronger attention in the closer we get to the end of life to having that spiritual openness to, you know, what is life about. So the courage, the curiosity, the what's my place in this world is poignant questions that are worth sitting with, pondering, opening yourself up to what does your spirit tell you? To me, knowing how to define my soul is so powerful because then the beauty is I can start aligning actions, decisions, choices with what's the best part of me. In fact, I feel like my spark is knowing who I am at my best. I started a meetup group shortly after I finished my coaching classes, and I was kind of shocked that whenever I said, "Who are you when you're at your best?" kind of just went over their head. And I kind of felt bad about that because I knew I'm like you. But so and when you have a purpose, a task like the volunteering, and in fact, one of the benefits of volunteering is actually feeling better. Your health and your sleep is better when you're volunteering. How amazing is that? You live longer. So if you're pretty interested in living longer, I had a couple uncles that did a lot of volunteering in retirement, and I never heard them complain at all. Your health is better. You're not spending as much time in the doctor's office. Hey, I've never had surgery. I've never had a night in the hospital. I've never had diabetes, no cancer, and I look pretty young. And the beauty of having a good mindset that you're kind of asking about too is that this one that says worry is a misuse of imagination.
Mm-hmm.
That is a profound statement because when I kicked fear out of my life. I actually stomped my foot a few times and say, I refuse to live my life based on fear. And I got that inspiration from Joshua chapters 1 and 2. It says, do not be afraid, be of good courage, be of great courage, do not be afraid. And I think I did a search here a couple of months ago and found that there was fear in the Bible 337 times. And most of the time is because angels appeared as do not be afraid.
Right. Not be afraid. Right. So tell us about your book and how you decided to even write a book and where we can find it.
Well, it is on Amazon, but if you want a signed copy, I have a few here as well. I decided to write it. Again, I've always kind of had it was important to me to be obedient.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was doing what I was supposed to do. And it was during the pandemic. And I did some research with the Ken Dykewell had just published this book, What Retirees Want, earlier that year. And he's been researching baby boomers for about 45 years now. And I think he's 73 now. And I wrote the book in such a way that it's do-it-yourself style.
Okay.
Every chapter, I ask you at least 3 questions. And it might be also followed with some suggestions of and what's working, all those kind of questions. It helps you start digging into some of you're actually doing a profile on you.
Okay.
Who knows you better than you? There are times we need a little bit of objective feedback instead of just our subjective input. But there is such a I start out in my beginning of my book of introduction of how the weird part of Sharon is that I like to collect near-death experience stories. And so as I've listened to their various stories, in fact, I have a sign on my wall here of all the message that most often is brought back from having come near to dying. And so I started imagining standing in heaven like they were, and imagining all the beauty, the fragrances, the animals, the flowers. I heard that flowers sing in heaven.
Okay.
And I said, okay, I want to feel all of that in my cells. And then how would that change life here?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I think about how my essence or spark, my DNA feels on the inside, it's a little bit like heaven on earth. It is so fulfilling, so satisfying, so brings contentment. I want that for everyone.
That is fantastic. So your book is available on Amazon, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so show the book again so people can rush out and get this. That is fantastic. Fresh Courage in Retirement. So as we now know that we still have control over our lives in retirement, we're just not getting up working every day for an employer or even for a business. We're doing some things that we really, really like to do. So
here's another thing to do in retirement.
Okay.
Love yourself.
Okay. And we don't do that often either. So now when someone is approaching retirement, because, a lot of times we don't, as people say, you should know what you're going to do next. But a lot of us just don't know, lot of people just don't know what they're going to do next. You can read, it's all over the internet. You knew you were going to retire, but you don't know what you're going to do. So what's something they can do while they're trying to figure out what they like to do? Because some people will say, oh, it's too hard, so what do I do? So what do they do while they're trying to figure out the best thing to do?
Well, I have, I think I have a sheet. Yeah. Okay, so here's all the things that you're going to miss besides your paycheck. You got all these kinds of things, positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, accomplishment. Well, when I found out about this, it was, well, this little graph here, let's see, there's a column here for how you got that at work.
Okay.
The positive emotions, the relationships, the meaning. And now we've got a column over here. Oh, I'm not pointing in the right place. Now there's make yourself a column for how are you going to replace those feelings of positive emotion, having gotten a great project done, or making a sale, or who did you go to lunch with before? How are you going to replace that in retirement? And then accomplishment, that you got a building built, you got a bridge built, you made the the best chocolate in the world, for your friends. How are you going to replace that in retirement? And I'm a behavioral scientist. That's why I can especially speak to this, because your financial replacement is what all the main people, most of the people you talk to, and there's a growing hunger being expressed by the public that says we want more than the financial coaching on what retirement is about. Before I retired, I met with a friend over here from my church, and she never has told me her age, so I don't know how much older she is from me. But I said, what is it like in retirement? And she's always talking about being with kids. Most of the time she's volunteering, I think, but she also likes to do music, and kids and music would be the ideal. Mm-hmm. And so she talked to me a little bit about, going to lunch with friends and being engaged in your community. So I'd love to help you think about what would you like to do, and we'll talk about what's possible and what's missing, and what's missing is a great place to start with our discussions.
How can people reach you?
I am on Facebook, SharonRolph.com. I also have on Instagram, Sharon_Queen of Courage. In fact, I need to be posting something here today or tomorrow. I try to do it weekly. I'm on LinkedIn, and let's see. Oh, I do have a lot of my podcasts are recorded on on YouTube. So we're in the process of revising my website, SharonRolph.com. It's also under the name now of effortlessvitality.org. And effortless vitality implies to me that something flows naturally from you. It feels so good. It's just like a river flowing through that is naturally flowing from you, because it's just such a dream to do that particular thing. You love it.
I have really enjoyed this conversation. It's been absolutely fantastic. And for those of you who are listening, this makes your next life in retirement sound and feel even better than the life that you're just finishing up. And you're right, volunteering is a great solution for a lot of people. And I like the chart, figuring out how you can do some of those same things in retirement. So for those of you who would like help planning your retirement, Sharon is definitely a go-to person for that. So
Yeah, my email is sharon@effortlessvitality.org.
okay, with that, I'm gonna close for tonight. So, as I always say, may this day offer you just what you need in each unfolding moment. I want you to be inspired. Until further notice, just celebrate everything, okay? Just everything. Do not go gently into that good night, but find a hill worth dying for and take it. Be the person that you are waiting for and make today so awesome that yesterday gets jealous. And above all else, do it your way. And as I always say, I can accomplish anything in the right pair of shoes. I'm Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, known as a empowerment doctor, and I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. I want to thank you, Sharon Rolph, for actually being with me. This was a fantastic podcast. You gave some great information for a lot of people who actually are going to be able to use that and enjoy that next life that they have coming to them. So retirement is not an end all be, and I think that's when you start to have fun. So just have fun.
Saying yes to life.
That's right, saying yes to life. Everyone, have a great evening. Bye now.
Life's too short to drink cheap champagne, so I decided to buy me a better brand to taste with my strawberry